Hi everyone, welcome to another Minisode with Beta Change. We would like to introduce Nicole Reed, founder of the NYU chapter of the College Diabetes Network, for a second Minisode with us. So Nicole is actually going to start her third year at NYU. So welcome back, Nicole. Let me get Nicole up on the screen first before we start our discussion. In the meantime, where we are trying to get Nicole up on the screen, if you have any questions or any feedback or any topic that you would like Nicole to talk about or discuss about, do write us on the comments below in the live video. And today's topic is actually about, hi, Nicole, you're back.
Hi, can you hear me?
Yes, we
Okay,
can.
perfect.
Yes, so welcome, Nicole, to our Minisode with Beta
Thank
Change.
you.
And I heard that you are starting your third year soon. So would you like to tell us a bit more and probably give like a self-introduction?
Yeah, so I'm Nicole, and I'm a rising junior at New York University studying business and philosophy. Been very involved in different student groups on campus, especially this past year, one being the NYU College of the Diabetes Network. And I founded this chapter in my freshman year, the fall term. And, we try to provide support and advocacy for those affected by diabetes. So we've been pretty busy organizing events, participating in the diabetes walk, and volunteering at different events. And I'll talk more about what we've done during this past year later in the minisode. So thank you for having me. I'm excited.
Yay, thank you for joining us once again. We're kind of like doing like a review of what you have talked about from the past Minisode. So can you tell us a brief summary of how your diabetes journey is like, and also a bit about your role with College with Diabetes Network?
Yeah, sure. So I was diagnosed with type 1 diabetes at the age of 9 years old in 2007. So coming up on my 11th anniversary of having type 1 diabetes. As I was, like growing up, I always participated in the Juvenile Diabetes Research Foundation events locally. And I decided when I came to college, I wanted to have a good support system and, create that since there wasn't an existing chapter of the College Diabetes Network here at New York University. So I decided, when I was, starting college to, plan a group. It didn't need to be very big at first. I just wanted to provide some support platform where people could discuss their lives with diabetes, or, people who they care about living with it. So nobody felt alone on campus, because that was definitely an experience I had when coming to college. I felt like nobody really understood my condition, particularly with diabetes. And it was kind of hard, because it's such an involved condition. And when people don't understand, sometimes it's hard to, kind of like pursue your studies. And, for me, moving to a new city and not really being around anybody that understood. So I was really happy to found this chapter of the College Diabetes Network.
Okay, so we do have like an international audience, so perhaps you would like to share with us a bit more about how the US college system is like.
So in terms of just in terms of like the basics, usually it's like 4 years you are at a university, and most people, especially their first year, will live on campus in the on-campus housing, and usually in dormitories, and will stay there maybe until they're like third or fourth year. Then they'll move off campus here in the US. So in terms of like, I could talk a little bit more like about roommates I know at NYU. The first year, it's completely random roommates. So I didn't know who I was going to live with, and that was kind of scary to me. You know, as a person living with diabetes, like I said, a very involved condition, where somebody, you know, living with me was not going to be very familiar with it. And I wasn't sure if they would be okay with me like doing injections in front of them and, testing my blood sugar. So it was definitely something I was concerned about, having a roommate when I was starting college. And, I really just learned that I needed to be upfront with, like whoever my roommate was going to be from the get-go. I think it's important to not be afraid of, saying you have diabetes and address it, right at first. So that way there's like no confusion and they can kind of be understanding of you.
Mm-hmm. So it sounds like it's quite a learning experience for you, transiting from where, your home place to a new location, and you have to kind of cope with all these things, and and also have to deal with a new a stranger that's living with you in that same room. So I mean, are there any changes in diabetes management since you actually started college? What's the difference?
Mm-hmm. Yeah, so I think one of the main differences it's something that a lot of people I don't think would really think about unless they had diabetes. Was at home you have like the support of your family mentally, like for your management of diabetes, because diabetes not only takes a physical toll, but it definitely takes a mental toll. It's very stressful counting carbohydrates, every time you're eating and monitoring your blood sugar. And so, the physical, like I was still doing injections normally, but I think like not having the support of my close friends and family all of the time, like around me when I was in college, definitely was not easy at first. It kind of goes back to my first point. Nobody around me really understood what I was going through. And that was really hard mentally on me and emotionally, because diabetes, at least from my perspective, is definitely harder mentally than physically. So I noticed I had to become more independent and, having outlets when sometimes I'd get frustrated and people wouldn't understand. Maybe that was deciding to read a book instead of maybe going to somebody and complaining about it because I didn't want my friends to have to listen to my complaints all the time, whereas my family would, just listen. I think another thing was, I've become much less timid to treat my condition. If I'm in public and I need to do an injection to correct my blood sugar, to lower it, I'm not afraid to just, go ahead, even if I'm like walking on the street, pull out the, injection and just go ahead and do it. Because like I've definitely learned to prioritize my health over like what people think. Which is important. I mean, that people might be looking at you, but you just kind of need to block out what their opinions are. And, they don't really care either way. You probably won't see them again. It's not a big deal. You're not doing anything wrong. So I think it's important to really just make sure that you feel good and not care what people think. And I used to definitely care a lot. So I think it's important to kind of block that out. And one final point, this is kind of recent, but I got the continuous glucose monitor like a month ago, and that's definitely changed my management a lot, because it gives you so many readings a day. I believe like 550 a day for me. So I've definitely noticed tighter control, and that's going to be very helpful with my busy like work and academic schedule.
Yeah, I'm sure the CGM does help a lot, especially with, for busy people, and especially when you're running around and sometimes you don't even know that you're even running low. But, the CGM, you can actually kind of alert you that, hey, you're kind of hitting low, and, you don't even know about it. That's a good thing.
Yep.
Yeah, so are there any challenges that you have faced? in the past few years in the college?
Yeah, I kind of touched on this about the roommate. It's
Yeah.
not, there wasn't really any problem with my roommate. But it was challenging at first when I needed to wake up in the middle of the night and, check my blood sugar and then, do an injection, because I didn't want to wake any of my roommates up like when they were sleeping. But, I also like, it's not my fault that I need to, take certain health measures, and that was definitely that's just a challenge in general, I think, for people living with diabetes, because you need to treat your condition, but you also like are trying to be respectful of like people's sleep or whatever they're doing, and you don't want to disrupt them. So kind of like I was saying, I just addressed it from the get-go, and I let them know to let me know if you're having a problem or if I'm interrupting your sleep. I'll make adjustments as needed. But I never really ran into any issues with that. But that's one thing to definitely keep in mind, I think, as a transitioning into college. Another like kind of living in New York City, it's really hard to do an injection when you're on the go. I wore the pump for a number of years, but now I'm back on injections, and it's hard like when you're on public transportation, to go ahead and give yourself a shot. But I think it's important. Just kind of, I touched on this also, not to care about what people are thinking, even if they're like right next to you. Even on an airplane, I've noticed too, that you just you always need to. I mean, like you don't need to like be annoying about like doing a shot like and like hitting somebody else, but you can just you know do it and not care about what people think. But you don't need to be too discreet about it. And lastly, yeah, so I ran into an issue my freshman fall where I didn't have a lot of time in between my class schedule and work schedule. And it became problematic because my blood sugar would get low a lot in the afternoon. So I decided, I heard from various diabetes forums that it's some people were requesting from their school early course registration accommodations. So I went ahead and requested that, and it was approved. And I highly recommend that for even if you're in college. I highly recommend asking your school if you could have that, because it's important to have time to eat and check your blood sugar, and it's really difficult when you only have like 10-minute intervals in between class and work and whatever clubs you're doing. So I think it's very important to request the accommodations that you feel you need, and course registration is definitely a good one.
Wow, that sounds like you have quite a tough time going through college. Yeah, it's amazing how we have the strength to actually overcome all these challenges. I know about I kind of like understand your challenge with taking insulin injections in public, because I used to do that because before I went on the pump, and there was a period of time I was really injecting myself in public, and I don't care like what kind of place they give me. So I mean, if I have to do it, I will do it. Yeah, but I completely understand the struggle you're gonna have with a very crowded transport system, especially in New York City.
Right.
Yeah,
it's difficult.
Okay, so it seems that we are having some difficulty with internet connection on Nicole's side, so we're gonna get back to you as soon as we can, and as soon as Nicole is back online. And yeah, so in the meantime, if you have any questions for Nicole or any comments that you would like to write, you can put down in the comment section below, and we can answer your questions, or we can address your issues. So if you have not liked us on our Facebook page, you can actually search for us. We are at Beta Change Network. Alternatively, we can also be seen on Twitter at Beta Change. Yay.
All right.
Hi,
Can you
Nicole.
hear
You're back.
me? Hi.
Yes,
Okay,
we can hear
perfect.
you now.
Okay, cool.
So yes. So as we were saying, we have actually talked about the challenges that you face while in college. Are there any surprising discovery that you have made? Well, in your time
Yeah.
in college.
hmm So these that I've discovered are kind of related to the challenges I faced. One of which is, people really don't care as much as you think they do. We were talking about this with when you're doing injections in public. People don't, they may glance, but they don't really form opinions. I mean, they don't really think you're doing anything illegal, from my experience. They're completely fine with it. And people are also more supportive than you might think at first. I've had a lot of friends um, come to my various college diabetes network events, and I'm always surprised by the people that want to come and support and really help out. It was really nice. We had a group of about 10 people who participated in the diabetes walk with us in last September. Through my chapter, and it was just really nice seeing all of the support. And I've also noticed that people enjoy learning about your life with diabetes. It's if they have misconceptions, it's not that they don't want to learn, it's just that they've never been educated. And I think it's important for people to remember to educate, and don't disregard people who just don't know about diabetes. Because like if anybody's going to do it, it's like, the people living with diabetes, or, who have close friends or family with it. So I think it's very important to take initiative in teaching people about the condition and what life's like, having to count every carb you eat or monitor your blood sugar. So it's definitely important not to be silent.
Yeah. So speaking about College Diabetes Network, so what are could you like share with us what are some of the activities or programs that you have? Mm-hmm.
Sure. So I can last year, I'll kind of go through a few of the key events. Like I mentioned, we did the Juvenile Diabetes Research Foundation One Walk. It's an annual walk, and it was along the Brooklyn Bridge. It was about 3 miles long, and it happened in last September. We're planning on participating again next month, so very excited about that. We also, an event I truly enjoyed was a diabetes art exhibit. So it was all art done by a type 1 diabetic, and it was art like inspired by his life and journey with diabetes. It was quite amazing. I got to talk to the artist for a while when I was at the exhibit, and a few of our chapter members attended as well. And it was one of like the coolest experience I've seen, and I was definitely able to relate to the artwork. So I definitely enjoyed that one. Um, I also organized for my chapter to make like volunteer kits for newly diagnosed patients, with like positive notes, and maybe like a notebook, and so that they could like draw on some crayons. So we made that for like the medical hospital, which was quite fun as well. And one other event I'd like to highlight that we did. So my College Diabetes Network chapter collaborated with Residential Life, and we had a program in the lobby of a dorm where students would spin a wheel with trivia questions, and they would answer and receive prizes from the College Diabetes Network. If they got, it was like very basic questions about diabetes and nutrition. So it was very nice because I felt like that program broke a lot of misconceptions and was also very interactive. So we had a record number breaking of students attend this program. So I was very happy.
Wow. Wow. It's also like a form of outreach to
Yeah.
educate others. Like, yeah. So we have a question for Kate Clark. And we'll just show you on the screen first. So the question is, how do you ladies manage your diabetes during major times of stress that can change eating and exercise schedules while adjusting to or managing the stress? Do you have any advice on this?
I definitely notice my blood sugar goes pretty high when I get stressed out. And I mean, I'm still working on coping mechanisms just for stress in general. But I think I try to keep like a pretty regular exercise schedule because exercise tends to, calm me down considerably and regulate my blood sugar. So I notice that stress doesn't affect my blood sugar as much when I exercise. And even during times of stress, I try to allot time to, keep an active lifestyle. During stress though, I definitely don't go to the healthiest foods, so I don't really have advice on that end. But the exercise I do.
Well, neither do I. So I mean, I think, yeah, all sorts of food. Yeah, but I think each one of us have got our own way of coping with stress, and I mean, for me, I kind of engage myself in activities that I kind of like, and yeah, so I mean, you just have to go and figure out what is your coping mechanism, your stress coping mechanism. And so thank you, Kat Clark, for that question. It's very nice of you to drop by. And so for the last question, do you have any advice for, like incoming or current college students?
Yeah. So one of the most important things to me is really getting involved with the school in any way, and in particular, if there's any disability groups on campus or diabetes groups. I definitely would say I've benefited tremendously from being involved and meeting other people in my situation and having constructive discussions about all of our journeys with diabetes in particular. So, even if a group doesn't exist like that, I would highly recommend to take initiative and, start groups. It's very easy to start a chapter of the College Diabetes Network, and I'd be happy to help anybody else that would like, interested in starting one. I also highly recommend applying for medical accommodations. It's very important living with diabetes. For academic accommodations, when you're taking tests and your blood sugar goes low, it might be important to have off the clock breaks. Or even with housing, I know my freshman year I applied for medical accommodations for housing to be close to campus and have a dining hall in the residence hall. And I think that definitely helped my first year prevent my blood sugar from going low when I was trying to find classes and so on. So I think medical accommodations is like very important when you're transitioning to college and having it throughout college. And one other thing is like, don't be too hard on yourself. I'm definitely a person, a perfectionist, and I'm like very hard on myself when it comes to my blood sugar not being in the normal range. I think it's important to try your best to manage it. So I think to an extent you can manage it, but sometimes it's unmanageable and it's not fair to be hard on yourself for something that like is just like extremely difficult to manage all of the time perfectly. And especially when you have classes, work, extracurriculars, and it's important to keep in mind that diabetes, like, you're not just a number at the end of the day. There's more.
Yeah. So, I mean, I'm just curious because when you were a freshman, you had a randomized roommate. So, did you actually carry on staying with the same roommate after that, or in the next year, or maybe you had to change your roommate? And how do you kind of cope with that if you had to change?
So I ended up being suite mates with my first year roommate, and I ended up living, with another one of my friends, and she was also understanding. But yeah, it's kind of difficult. Like I was saying, it would be hard every year to change roommates, especially into a random roommate because they wouldn't be familiar with the condition. Like my second year, it was one of my friends who knew all about diabetes and was part of my group. So there wasn't really any explaining to do because she knew me for a year. Um, but honestly, I would say don't be afraid of random roommates. Like diabetes shouldn't hold you back from, if you want a random roommate every year to meet somebody and live with somebody different every year, that's completely fine. And if they have a problem, you can always tell them to discuss with you. And that's honestly part of diabetes is advocating for yourself and explaining your situation to others when there's, any issue that arises.
Yeah, so that's all the questions that we have for you, Nicole, for today. And I mean, like, thank you so much for coming on the show again and, sharing about how you have progressed since you started college. So for those of you who are actually watching this video and you're interested to know more about how to cope with college life or on campus and, dealing with accommodations, do contact the College Diabetes Network. Or if you are interested to start a program similar to what CND does, also contact them and I'm sure they can help you out to start something similar and make a chapter in your on your campus in your college. And I'm sure you can help. I'm sure it'll be great that you have international friends coming to you to ask for help as well. So don't be afraid. There's Nicole Reed, there's College Diabetes Network. We are all here to help you along. And thank you all so much for actually watching us on Beta Change on this Minisode. And to follow us, to catch up with more of our updates, you can follow us on Facebook at Beta Change Network, or you can look up for us at Twitter at beta_change. If you want to watch more of our YouTube catch up with our past YouTube minisodes, you can actually follow us, subscribe to us on YouTube, and that's Beta Change Network. And you can subscribe, and you will be able to access all the other minisodes that we have in the past. So that's all we have for you today. Thank you so much. And if you have comments or anything about today's minisode or anything you want to talk to Nicole about, do write us in the comments below. And thank you so much for coming, and thank you, Nicole Reed, for being on our show.
Thank you so much. I had a great time. Bye.